Right now, an algorithm is probably analyzing how likely you are to quit your job.
Which is a terrifying thought for most people.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be looking at the metadata of your emails or, the latency in your Slack replies.
Or even just how often you update your LinkedIn profile.
Exactly.
Eh.
And the natural reaction to that is usually just dread. We picture this sterile, completely dystopian future where artificial intelligence just, well, where it manages everything.
Right, where human beings are just these optimized little cogs in a digital machine.
Yeah. But we had a stack of sources in front of us today. Articles, organizational research, lots of notes, and it all points to this massive, really counterintuitive paradox.
Oh, it's wild. The data totally flips the script.
It does. The companies that are utilizing this intense surveillance tech to win, they aren't actually stripping the humanity out of their workforce. They are somehow becoming the most radically human workplaces on Earth.
Which completely upends the traditional corporate playbook, you know? The technology that everyone assumed would turn offices into robotic assembly lines is actually forcing organizations to double down on empathy.
Empathy, connection, psychological safety, all of it. And that is the core mission for this deep dive. We're taking this stack of research.
Which is anchored by a really fascinating piece.
Yes, exactly. An article by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover called Redefining HRM, From Human Capital to Human Experience. And we're going to extract the hidden mechanics of how AI is forcing a fundamental shift in how your employer treats you.
Because we have to look past the hype, right? We
Yeah.
need to understand the actual nuts and bolts of why the future of work requires companies to care about you as a complete person.
Not just a line item on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, artificial intelligence is the ultimate catalyst here.
It really is the wrecking ball.
Right. It acts as a wrecking ball to those legacy management structures while simultaneously offering the tools to rebuild something much more resilient.
But to understand why organizations are panicking and pivoting today, we really have to look at the mechanical failure of the system they're trying to leave behind.
The old system.
Right. For decades, the dominant corporate philosophy was human capital theory. We think that term thrown around a lot.
Oh, yeah, mostly dating back to economists in the 1960s like Schultz and Becker.
Right. But looking at the friction between that old mentality and modern knowledge work, it's, well, the traditional human capital model reminds me of managing a fantasy sports team.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, think about it. You're drafting players, you're trading assets, and your entire relationship with that person is based purely on their historical stats.
Their projected return on investment, basically.
Exactly. You acquire them, you extract their value on Sunday, and you really don't concern yourself with their well-being off the field.
Unless it directly impacts their scoring potential, of course.
Right.
That fantasy sports analogy captures the inherent transactional nature of that era perfectly, honestly, because human capital theory treated the workforce as a static reservoir of skills.
You put wages in, you get productivity out.
Exactly. But that input-output calculation just breaks down completely in a modern, complex economy.
Because you can't just squeeze more innovation out of a software engineer, right?
No, or more strategic thinking out of an analyst simply by, optimizing their schedule or monitoring their keystrokes.
It just doesn't work that way.
Right. Those old levers of productivity completely ignore the emotional, social, and psychological dimensions of how high-level cognitive work actually happens.
Okay, let's unpack this because the source material says we're moving from human capital to human experience management, or HXM.
HXM, yeah.
But experience is such a squishy corporate buzzword.
Oh, totally. It sounds like an HR brochure.
Exactly. So if the old model was a fantasy sports roster, this new HXM model feels more like urban planning.
Urban planning.
Yeah, like designing a thriving city. You aren't just slotting people into positions anymore. You are building the infrastructure, the zoning, the parks.
The community safety nets.
Right. The things that make citizens actually want to live and build businesses there.
That makes a lot of sense. And the mechanics of building that thriving city are highly specific. According to the research, the human experience is the sum total of every micro interaction you have with your employer.
Like down to the chair you sit in.
Exactly. It is the physical ergonomics of your chair and the psychological safety of your team meetings. But the most aggressive driver forcing companies to care about this is what the researchers call the consumerization of work.
Oh, I found this part so interesting. It's the idea that we expect our office software to be as smooth as our streaming services.
Right, let's look at the friction there. As a consumer, you open an app on your phone and it intuitively knows your preferences, right?
Yeah, the interface is totally seamless.
Exactly. If you want to order food or book a flight, it takes maybe 3 taps.
3 taps and you're done.
But then you log on to your company's internal HR portal to request like a single day of paid time off.
Oh man, don't get me started.
Right. You have to navigate 5 clunky menus, deal with a system crash, and then wait 2 weeks for a manual manager approval.
It's the worst. And the cognitive load that places on an employee, it creates immediate, measurable resentment.
Exactly. And when talent is scarce, companies realize that a frustrating technological environment isn't just, an IT problem. It is a primary driver of attrition.
Which brings us to the double-edged sword of this entire shift. Because employees are demanding that consumer-grade, frictionless experience, companies are rushing to integrate AI into this very messy, highly sensitive business of managing humans.
And it is messy.
Extremely messy. And the initial stats I found in the stack of research are staggering. Like AI adoption apparently explains about 38% of the variance in organizational performance.
That's a massive competitive advantage.
Huge. In recruitment alone, deploying AI-powered applicant screening cuts a recruiter's time by 40 to 60%. Yet, getting half your week back just because an algorithm did the initial resume sorting sounds incredible.
Well, the efficiency gains are definitely real, but the research clarifies a crucial nuance about how that performance is actually generated.
What do you mean?
The data suggests that AI's performance benefits flow primarily through the enhancement of the employee's experience. It's not just through raw cost cutting or time saving.
Wait, I need to test that logic. Are you saying the company makes more money because the AI makes the employee happier rather than the AI just doing the job faster?
Yes, exactly. Consider the mechanics of an AI-driven learning and development platform, for instance. Instead of a generic corporate training video that, let's be honest, everyone ignores.
Oh, I've skipped through so many of those.
Right. Instead of that, the algorithm analyzes your specific past projects,
Oh, yeah.
maps the adjacent skills you need for a promotion, and creates a highly personalized, dynamic curriculum.
Oh, wow. So it actually knows what you need.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And organizations using these personalized pathways see a 30 to 50% increase in completion rates.
That's a huge jump.
It is. The AI reduces the friction of learning, the employee feels genuinely invested in, their capability increases, and that downstream effect is what drives the 38% variance in organizational performance.
I see the angle. I really do. Though I have to push back hard on this utopian vision.
Fair enough.
Because personalized learning algorithms sound great on paper. But if a company is using machine learning to analyze my skills, map my emails to gauge my mood, and track my project completion rates, doesn't that inherently turn the workplace into a creepy surveillance state?
It absolutely can, yes.
Because how does feeling like you have a digital warden hovering over your keyboard translate to a positive human experience?
The research validates that fear entirely. Algorithmic management generates profound anxiety.
I can imagine.
When systems are designed purely to track keystrokes or, monitor active screen time, it triggers what sociologists call digital fatigue.
Digital fatigue.
Yeah. Employees experience a severe loss of autonomy. They report feelings of depersonalization.
Like they're just a number.
Exactly. The sense that they are no longer a respected professional, but simply a data node in a network being policed by a machine. And that's before we even touch on the historical biases these systems can amplify.
Oh, right. Because if the AI is trained on historical data, and the company, historically, say, promoted a very specific demographic,
The algorithm just learns to optimize for that bias.
it systematically filters out diverse talent while hiding behind the illusion of mathematical objectivity.
Which is the fastest way to erode whatever trust an organization has built.
Totally.
But what's fascinating here is there's a paradox the researchers uncovered when surveying the workforce.
A paradox.
Yeah. Despite those very real, highly documented fears of surveillance and bias, surveys indicate that 65 to 75% of employees actually view well-designed AI systems as helpful.
Wait, really? Over 65%?
Yes. And in certain contexts, they actually report trusting the algorithm's assessment more than their human manager.
Which makes me wonder how terrible the average human manager must be for an employee to prefer the judgment of a server farm.
Honestly, it speaks to the erratic nature of human leadership. I mean, a human boss might play favorites, right?
Yeah, true.
Or they might have just had a bad morning. Or they might unconsciously judge you based on small talk in the break room.
But an algorithm doesn't care if you didn't laugh at its joke.
Exactly. An algorithm, assuming it is designed transparently, applies the exact same criteria to everyone.
So it feels more fair.
Right. The underlying mechanism of acceptance relies on intent. If the AI is deployed to reduce administrative friction like automatically filing your expense reports or mapping a career path, employees welcome it.
But if it's policing them,
Exactly. If it is deployed as a policing mechanism to flag you for spending too long on a lunch break, it triggers immediate rebellion.
it's the difference between being handed a brilliant executive assistant versus being assigned an incredibly strict parole officer.
That's a great way to put it.
But because the risk of that surveillance anxiety is so high, the companies actually succeeding here aren't just letting the software run wild, right? The sources point to a specific architectural choice they're making.
Yes.
I think it's called human-in-the-loop design.
Exactly, human in the loop. And to understand the mechanics of why a human in the loop is necessary, we have to look at the psychological concept of procedural justice.
Procedural justice.
Yeah.
What does that mean in this context?
It dictates that human beings care just as much about how a decision was made as they do about the actual outcome.
So even if an algorithm accurately decides I am not ready for a promotion, I will still be furious if I don't feel the process was rigorous, fair, and, considerate of my context.
Exactly. And conversely, if you understand the process was fair, you are far less likely to quit in frustration.
That makes sense.
Systems that incorporate meaningful human judgment at the final point of decision demonstrate substantially higher acceptance rates. Let's look at how Hilton engineered this.
Oh, I was reading through the Hilton case study in our notes. This was fascinating. They implemented an AI platform to handle internal mobility.
Right.
Basically trying to figure out which employees should move into which new roles.
Yeah, and the engine behind that platform doesn't just look at job titles. It performs complex skill adjacency mapping.
Skill adjacency.
It breaks down, say, a front desk clerk's job into dozens of micro skills.
Okay, like what?
Like conflict resolution, real-time logistics, multilingual communication. It then matches those micro skills to corporate roles, perhaps in marketing or HR, that a human manager would never have intuitively connected.
It's just the manager just sees front desk clerk.
Exactly. But here's the critical procedural justice element. The AI does not have the authority to assign the employee to the new role.
So it doesn't treat them like inventory being shifted to a different warehouse.
Never.
Yeah.
It only generates the recommendation.
Right.
The AI maps the hidden potential, and then the employee sits down with a human career coach to discuss what that transition would actually feel like.
So the algorithm identifies the hidden pattern, but it requires a human to validate the emotional reality of the change.
Precisely. And by structuring it that way, Hilton saw a 35% increase in internal mobility.
35%? That's massive.
It is. Employees didn't feel processed, they felt discovered.
They felt seen. There was another example in the research from Siemens that applies this same logic to an even more sensitive area.
Oh, the flight risks.
Yes, predicting who is about to quit.
Right. Predictive analytics for flight risks. The AI monitored anonymized metadata, so things like changes in badge swipe patterns, shifts in the velocity of internal network activity, or, delayed responses to meeting invites.
Okay.
And it calculates a probability score that an employee is disengaging.
Now, think about how catastrophic that could be if handled purely by the software.
Oh, it would be a disaster.
Right. The AI flags you as a flight risk, and an automated email hits your inbox offering you a generic 2% raise to stay.
Yeah, no thank you.
The sheer panic of realizing the company knows you're interviewing elsewhere would probably make you pack your desk that afternoon.
It would validate every single fear of the surveillance state.
Completely.
But Siemens engineered a completely different intervention. When the AI calculates a high probability of departure, the employee is never notified by the system.
Okay. So who gets the alert?
The alert goes to a human HR business partner, and that partner uses the alert as a prompt to schedule a confidential, open-ended conversation with the employee.
So they don't accuse them of leaving, they just ask how things are going.
Exactly. They seek to understand the nuanced individual circumstances that the metadata just can't see.
Right, because the metadata doesn't know why you're acting differently.
Right. Maybe the employee is dealing with elder care issues and needs schedule flexibility, not a raise.
Wow.
By inserting a human to deliver the empathy, Siemens achieved an 18% reduction in involuntary turnover.
That is incredible. So the heavy analytical lifting is automated,
Hmm.
but the intervention is entirely human. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Putting a human in the loop means the humans working inside these companies need entirely new skill sets.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't just buy a predictive analytics dashboard and expect your legacy managers to suddenly become empathetic career coaches. You have to fundamentally rewire the operating model.
Right, which the research frames as the psychological contract recalibration.
Yes, the psychological contract. It's the unwritten set of expectations between the worker and the institution, right?
Exactly. And the legacy contract, born out of that 1960s human capital era we talked about, was essentially loyalty in exchange for job security.
You give the corporation 30 years of obedience, and they provide a pension and a gold watch.
Right, but the velocity of AI disruption shatters that completely. The company can no longer guarantee your department will even exist in 5 years.
I was trying to map out a metaphor for this new contract earlier. Because the old psychological contract was like a traditional marriage, right? Till retirement do us part.
That's a good way to look at it.
But the new contract is much more like an elite, high-end fitness membership.
A fitness membership.
Yeah. The company, cannot promise that you will stay a member forever. But they promise that while you are in their ecosystem, they will provide the absolute best training, the most advanced equipment, the most rigorous environment to make you stronger, faster, and more capable for whatever your next athletic event might be.
Even if that event is with a competitor.
Exactly. Even if it's with a competitor.
That captures the shift in incentives perfectly. The research defines this as prioritizing employability over employment security.
Employability.
Right. If an organization wants to attract top talent in an AI-driven market today, they have to commit to developing portable skills.
And AT&T is a great example of this, right?
The AT&T case study is wild.
Yeah.
Let's look at the mechanics of how they handled this. They realized early on that cloud computing and automation were going to render a massive portion of their legacy telecommunications workforce obsolete.
And the traditional corporate move there is a mass layoff followed by a hiring spree of new talent.
Which destroys the thriving city ecosystem we discussed earlier.
Total demolition.
Right. Instead, AT&T allocated a staggering $1 billion to completely reskill their existing workforce.
$1 billion.
$1 billion. They built an internal university to teach data analytics, AI fundamentals, and digital collaboration to employees whose previous jobs were entirely manual or analog.
Wait, investing $1 billion into people who might leave the company anyway?
Because the alternative, managing a terrified, obsolete workforce, is far more expensive in the long run.
Oh, that makes sense.
The employees felt equipped rather than threatened, and Microsoft actually took this rewiring even further by completely blowing up their traditional HR structure.
Oh, yeah, I read this.
Through intelligent automation, they eliminated 60% of their transactional HR staff.
Now, I really struggled with this point in the research. How does firing 60% of the human resources department result in a more human experience for the employee?
It sounds contradictory, I know.
Right. If my paycheck is wrong or my benefits don't clear, who do I talk to? Did they just replace payroll with a chatbot to save money?
No, they didn't just pocket the savings. They automated the transactional layer, sure, but they reallocated that capital to fund an entirely new relational layer.
Relational layer.
Yeah, they created roles called employee experience managers.
Okay.
Instead of having a staff of hundreds processing vacation requests, which, the AI now handles instantly, they hired specialists whose sole mandate is to proactively design and optimize the daily psychological and physical journey of the workforce.
So they eliminated the robotic tasks to fund deeply human roles.
Exactly, resulting in a 35% increase in employee satisfaction with HR services.
Which proves the paradox.
What?
They used automation to force human connection.
You did?
But that entire ecosystem relies on a very fragile foundation, doesn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, if the AI running the background operations, screening the resumes, mapping the skills, flagging the slight risks, if that AI is fundamentally biased, that entire thriving city turns toxic overnight.
Oh, absolutely. Which this raises an important question. If you are the architect of this new operating model, how do you actually prove to your skeptical workforce that the algorithms aren't quietly discriminating against them?
Right.
Ethical AI governance is no longer just a compliance checklist for the legal department. It is the core strategic capability that sustains the psychological contract.
And I found the Unilever story in our sources to be the most compelling answer to that.
Video interviews.
Yeah, Unilever started using AI-powered video interviews to screen their graduate recruitment pipeline. And on the surface, being judged by an algorithm analyzing your facial expressions on a webcam sounds deeply dystopian.
Oh, definitely.
Most top-tier candidates would immediately withdraw their application.
Because the cognitive load of trying to perform for a machine is just exhausting.
Exactly. But Unilever achieved over 90% candidate satisfaction with the process.
90%.
Over 90%. And they did it through the mechanics of radical transparency. They didn't hide the algorithm behind a proprietary curtain.
They just opened it up.
Yeah, they published detailed explanations of exactly how the AI was trained, what specific criteria the assessment methodology was weighing, the statistical steps they took to mitigate bias, and, this is key, the exact moment a human evaluator would step in to review the machine's work.
That's brilliant. The psychological mechanism at play there is the reduction of ambiguity.
Right.
When people understand the underlying logic of the system judging them, their anxiety plummets. They feel respected as participants rather than manipulated as subjects.
Yes, and the data shows that the 90% satisfaction rate held firm even among the candidates who were ultimately rejected.
Because they trusted the math, right, and they trusted the guardrails around the math.
Exactly. And the sources highlighted several other companies building these structural guardrails at an institutional level, too.
Like IBM.
Right. IBM didn't just write a mission statement. They established an internal AI ethics board. Any system that impacts an employee's career trajectory has to survive a comprehensive impact assessment before it ever goes live.
And Goldman Sachs applied a purely engineering solution to the problem.
What did they do?
They implemented rigorous bias testing protocols that operate kind of like a firewall.
A firewall?
Yeah. Before an AI tool affecting employment decisions can be deployed, it is flooded with synthetic data to test for disparate impacts across gender, race, and age.
Wow.
And if the algorithm fails to meet defined fairness thresholds, the deployment is hard blocked. The system cannot go live.
That is serious commitment. And LinkedIn took a dedicated team approach, actually. They built an AI fairness team whose sole objective is to stress test recommendation algorithms.
Right.
By running systematic adversarial experiments against their own code, they managed to reduce measured bias by 60 to 80% across their platforms.
That's incredible.
So what does this all mean? When we distill this massive stack of research, the takeaway is pretty clear. Transparency and ethical guardrails aren't just PR talking points anymore.
Not at all.
They are the literal bedrock of the new employee experience. Because if the algorithm isn't demonstrably fair, it doesn't matter how incredible the personalized learning platform is, or how much internal mobility the system recommends, the culture will just rot from the inside out.
It will. It absolutely will.
We started today by looking at a paradox. The assumption that the future of work will be cold, sterile, and automated. But the mechanics we've unpacked prove the exact opposite.
The exact opposite.
Right. The data clearly shows that the organizations equipped to survive are the ones deploying AI to handle the transactional, robotic friction of corporate life.
And they're doing that specifically to liberate their human workforce.
Yes, to focus on the things a server farm cannot process. Connection, meaning, and psychological safety.
The winning companies are using the cold logic of code to engineer human flourishing.
Human flourishing, I love that.
Yeah, the shift from capital to experience is profound. But, as we map the trajectory of these technologies, the sources leave us with a fascinating, if slightly unnerving implication for the horizon.
Unnerving. How so?
Well, we are already preparing for continuous learning and the integration of brain-computer interfaces. As these AI systems inevitably evolve, they will absorb almost all of our routine cognitive and analytical work.
Right, the heavy lifting of logic will be entirely automated.
Exactly. And when that horizon arrives, human value in the marketplace will be derived exclusively from our creativity, our empathy, and our ability to synthesize meaning out of ambiguity.
Wow.
Which brings us to the final thought we really need to consider. When all the quantifiable, metric-driven tasks are successfully outsourced to the machine, how will future organizations actually measure an employee's performance when the only tasks left to judge are deeply, inherently human? I mean, how do you put a KPI on empathy?